So I want to play you guys an interview from CNN. This is Wolf Blitzer talking to a community activist named Deray McKesson. And this is the perfect example of just how much Wolf Blitzer sucks. So pay close attention to all of his questions. Now, Deray is going to do a great job answering all of them and deflecting his silliness. But notice the focus of Wolf Blitzer's questions, because that's the most important part.
Deray McKesson, he's a community activist who we first met in Ferguson, Missouri. He's now in Baltimore as part of a peaceful protest. Deray, thanks very much for joining us. What's your plan today? What's your mission in Baltimore?
You know, we're here supporting the protesters on the ground and continuing the movement. You know, there's been a lot of positive demonstrations over the past couple months here in Baltimore and across the country because the police have continued to kill people. And tonight will be another night where people come out into the streets to confront a system that is corrupt.
But you want peaceful protest, right?
Yes, for sure. Yep. And remember, the people that have been violent since August have been the police. When you think about the 300 people that have been killed this year alone, like that is violence. There's been property damage here that's been really unfortunate over the past couple for a day or so here. But remember, there have been many days of peaceful protest here in Baltimore City and in places all around the country.
But at least 15 police officers have been hurt, 200 arrests, 144 vehicle fires. These are statistics. Local police have put out 15 structure fires. There's no excuse for that kind of violence, right?
Yeah, and there's no excuse for the 7 people that the Baltimore City Police Department has killed in the past year either, right?
We're not making comparisons. Obviously, we don't want anybody hurt, but I just want to hear you say that there should be peaceful protests, not violent protests, in the tradition of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, there should be peaceful protests, and I don't have to condone it to understand it, right? That the pain that people feel is real, and you are making a comparison. You are suggesting this idea that broken windows are worse than broken spines, right? And what we know to be true is that the police are killing people everywhere. They're killing people here. 6 police officers were involved in the killing of Freddie Gray, and we're looking for justice there. And that's real, right? That, like, the violence that the police have been inflicting on communities of color has been sustained and deep.
But you agree, I assume, with President Obama, who just said a few moments ago there's no excuse for the violence that erupted yesterday. There's no excuse for the stealing, no excuse for the arson. You agree with the president?
What I agree with is that I advocate people to peacefully protest. I also know that pain manifests in different ways, and I don't have to condone it to understand it. People are grieving and people are mourning. And I would advocate personally for people to do it in ways that you are calling peacefully. But again, I also know that Freddie Gray will never be back and that those windows will be.
And the president also said, President Obama, he said the violence, he said, distracted from the peaceful protests and distracted from the mourning that the family of Freddie Gray was seeking yesterday. Your reaction to that?
You know, we're distracted from progress is when city officials get on TV and call black people in pain thugs, right? That's a distraction. So, you know, I think that the unrest, the uprising, whatever you call it, is again a cry for justice here and a cry for justice across the country because the police continue to terrorize people. And again, the terrorizing is actually deadly. Broken windows are not broken spines. People are in pain. So I think that the president, I hope that he understands the conditions that created the unrest and that continue the unrest, not only here in Baltimore, but across the country, because Freddie Gray will never see another day, and neither will Tamir or Ayanna or Mike Brown.
Deray McKesson deserves some sort of an award for his patience there. Because that was, in all seriousness, that was like an SNL skit. Because Wolf Blitzer, he asked the same question about 5 or 6 times in slightly different ways. He's like, first of all, Freddie Gray? Where was Freddie Gray in that conversation? Did you hear any in-depth conversation about Freddie Gray? I certainly didn't hear any in-depth conversation about Freddie Gray, and that's not because Deray McKesson didn't want to talk about it. It's because Wolf Blitzer did not ask a question about it. Wolf Blitzer kept saying, well, so, you know, we see this protest and riots going on over there. Anyway, do you condemn the riots, and would you say that it'd be better to peacefully protest? Deray's like, yeah, I condemn the riots and I prefer peaceful protests for sure. And Wolf's like, anyway, so I have a statement here from President Obama who says the riots are bad and people shouldn't do property damage and this isn't helping. Would you agree with that? Yeah, like I said, I condemn the riots and I would prefer people peacefully protest. So anyway, when it comes to what's happening over there, do you think that the riots are counterproductive? Oh, God. See, this is, and by the way, this goes right back to the clip we covered yesterday, the clip of Malcolm X, which legit looked like prophecy. It's like somebody had asked Malcolm X in that was probably early 1960s when he was giving a speech. They said, in 2015, what do you make of the Freddie Gray situation? Because Malcolm X just made a perfect point after perfect point about how the mainstream press, or as he referred to it, the white press, what they do in situations when there's brutality against black communities is they'll only focus on the backlash from the black communities. And they'll say, oh, riots, oh, violence, oh, they're burning down buildings and burning cars, and look at these thugs, look at them acting crazy. And the idea is to push the narrative that, like, no, those are the real criminals. The real criminals are the black people, and look at what they're doing, and, hey, white America, doesn't this kind of make it seem like the cops should have free reign to go in there and do whatever the hell they want to do in order to keep these people in line? And subconsciously, I think, not even on a conscious level, but subconsciously, many white people think like, come on, they are rioting and burning shit down. Yeah, you can go in there and use really harsh tactics to try to put them in line. And that's all because the media refuses to focus in any serious way on the Freddie Gray situation more. Whenever there's a riot, it's always forget what led to it, forget the underlying problems, the root cause. Now let's only talk about the riots and make it seem like they sprung out of nowhere. Black people just woke up and said, let's fuck some shit up. There's no reason for what's happening there, and that's the problem. And look, understand, I'm not a guy who says you can't talk about the riots. Of course you can talk about the riots. Of course you can condemn the riots. I condemn the riots. I believe in the tradition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but you also have to talk about the thing that led to it at least equally. And Wolf Blitzer in that interview spoke only about the riots and asked questions only about the riots, even when Deray repeatedly said, yeah, I condemn them. Can we move on to something that's actually gonna try to fix the problem? No, you can't do that. Wolf Blitzer has another 14 questions about rioting.